This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zio to Hero, the podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to Tai Tales, a place you'll find stories and fanfictions written and read to you by me, your host Tai Tiger. Today we're diving into Walking Dead Brothers Bound, a storyline which is based in the world of Walking Dead. That's literally all it is my own characters, my own stories, just in the world of Walking Dead. Today we're diving into the backstory of one of the main characters, a girl called Lucy. So far, all we've seen of Lucy is she's a bit of a hard ass with a bow and arrow, and she keeps to herself. But the leaders of the human town kind of sent Lucy with Mikhail and Hunter, and in this chapter we'll find out how Lucy came to be Lucy before she ended up in human town. So let's dive in with The Walking Dead Brothers Bound, Chapter 4, The Walking Tale of Lucy. Lucy, Mikhail and Hunter walked on the path above the field. The field was in view. They could see the group of walkers slowly advancing towards the town. This place is surrounded by fields. The only way to get to the town is by vehicle, is through the forest. But the best thing is, we can see everything that goes on here, Lucy explained. She pulled out her bow off her shoulder, drew an arrow from her quiver and aimed it. She released the arrow and it flew down and hit one of the walkers in the head as it dropped dead. Whoa, nice shot, Hunter chuckled. She is one of the best, Mikhail grinned. He then knelt down and aimed his sniper rifle. He peered down the scope and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed as the walker's head exploded. Its body dropped to the floor. Then he pulled the trigger again and another one dropped to the floor as well, as its skull and brain splattered all over the soft soil and tall grass. Then the rest of the walkers started advancing towards them. Well done, Mikhail. Nicely done. You two can go down there and handle them. I'll stay here. Watch your backs, Lucy ordered. Hunter pulled out his machete and followed Mikhail as they both advanced towards the group of walkers. Hunter swung his machete and hit a walker in the head. It dropped to the floor and Mikhail pulled his sharpened pole off his back and stabbed the pointy end into the head of a walker. Then an arrow flew past them and hit one of the walkers that was straddled to the back of the group. Lucy drew another arrow and took aim. 8 years ago. Lucy woke up to the sound of screaming and glass smashing. She jumped to her feet and crept out of her room. She peered down the hallway. Her father's room seemed empty. She ran down the stairs and ran into the kitchen to find her father hitting someone across the head with a rolling pin. Then she noticed another human being on the floor. Dad, what the fuck is going on? Lucy barked. Honey, get back. People have gone mad. Tried biting me. Headbutted the door to the window smashed. Her dad barked. He ran up to her and hugged her. Honey, get your bag and pack it. Get dressed quick. I don't think it's safe here anymore, her dad told her. Okay, she nodded. Her mouth was dry and her hands were shaky, but she could see the seriousness in her father's face. She ran upstairs and threw on some clothes, then she started packing her bag. She stuffed everything she thought she would need, and everything deemed essential. Then she found her trainers, put them on, and she headed downstairs, where her dad had pulled a bag together. Her dad led her to the car and they climbed in. Then her dad looked at her. Lucy gave her a nod. Then they drove off. They drove through town. Her dad drove through town ever so slowly. She saw some people walking kind of funny in groups. They caught a guy and started biting him and tearing his flesh off of him. Lucy carried away from the sight. Keep your gaze away, honey, her dad told her. Her father drove them out of town and headed into the forest. There, they went to her father's hunting cabin. They got out of the car and her father headed into the cabin and came back a few minutes later with a couple of hunting rifles and a black duffel bag. He threw them into the boot of the car to keep them safe. Lucy stretched out her legs and started wandering off. She got into the deep part of the forest. There, she found a woman stood there staring at a tree. Hey there, you okay? I can call my dad if you need help, Lucy called out to her. She approached the woman slowly. She could hear a slow growling noise coming from the woman. She grabbed the girl's shoulder and she spun around. The woman lashed her teeth at her. Lucy jumped back and screamed. The woman lunged for her. Lucy pushed the woman back. She then turned around to run away as she tripped over a tree root, falling to the ground. She turned around to see the woman who fell to her knees and started crawling towards her, trying to grab at her ankles. Lucy scurried backwards, kicking up the soft soil as she boosted herself back. The deranged woman started to climb on top of Lucy. She managed to kick her off a couple of times, but with her strength and weight, she overpowered Lucy extremely. Lucy screamed as loud as she could feel the woman's breath on her neck. Suddenly there was a gunshot. It echoed through the entire forest. and the woman's head exploded all over the floor. She dropped onto Lucy dead. She pushed the dead woman off her. Her father came running up, offering her hand up, and she was pulled to her feet. Sorry, Dad. I just wanted to see if she's alright, and Lucy started to lose her words. Shh, baby girl, it's okay. Let's get back to the cabin, her father told her. 5 years later. Lucy and her father had made quite a good life for themselves. Lucy learned how to hunt, track, and kill wildlife. And walkers. Walkers would stay close to town, but every now and then they would end up walking closer to the cabin. Her father taught her how to make traps to capture small animals, but also to signal for walkers nearby. Lucy and her father would make bi-weekly runs into town and started making notes which buildings had been raided and which buildings were off limits due to the many walkers swarming in them. Lucy and her father had a small vegetable garden to one side of the cabin, which Lucy had decorated with small trinkets she had collected from town. Lucy sat there tending to the garden when her father came up walking towards her from the forest. She saw him with a quiver of freshly made arrows. Hey honey, I made these, since we haven't got many bullets left, her dad told her. Okay, awesome. I can use them when we go into town, Lucy grinned. Hopefully we won't need to, her dad said awkwardly. Dad, we need to start tackling the more infected areas. We have to, or else we're picking up dust from the same 8 buildings, Lucy moaned. Her father took a deep breath and sighed, as he knew that his daughter was correct. You're right, we should at least try, her father sighed. Then Lucy nodded and she got herself prepared. They made their way down to town. They had to walk as they ran out of petrol a few months prior. They walked into the high street. Then they climbed into an old pub. They walked through the back and entered an alleyway. They walked into a gym where they found a walker who had stumbled in through one of the big window panes. The walker clocked them. Don't worry, Dad, I got it, Lucy told her father. She then pulled out her knife, walked up to the walker, placing her hand on its head. She then rammed the knife into the walker's temple, killing it. The walker then fell to the floor. Lucy extracted her knife and cleaned it before she put it back in her waistline. Her father then led her out of the front of the building. Next, they climbed on top of a bus and walked on top to dodge a small group of walkers, which became cornered in by an old section of vehicles. Anyone with a conscious mind would climb over them or under them, but luckily for the rest of the human race, the walkers could not do that. Lucy hopped off the bus and landed on the car, then landed safely next to the hairdressers. Her father then pulled out the map and placed it on the hood of a car, then pointed at the part of the map they had drawn a red cross over. That building is right over there. It's a shopping centre. Now, then there might be actual food, or not, maybe some canned stuff, maybe some tools or items we can at least utilise, her father said. Okay, awesome, Lucy grinned. Then the map got folded and put in her father's bag. Then they found their way into the shopping centre. They crouched down, peeking through the window. The entire store was littered with walkers, who wandered aimlessly around with no sense of meaning. Be quiet, and be quick, her father whispered. Then they crept in to the broken glass door and kept low. They both pulled out their knives ready. Her father walked up to the walker and stabbed it in the head and caught it before it fell and gently placed it on the ground. Then Lucy opened her rucksack and pulled some tins of food into her bag from the shelf, also a bag of rice and some sort of seasoning. Then they moved into the next aisle. She kept low and started stuffing bottles of water into her bag. Then she found a box of tea bags. Score! Lucy barked out loud. Then 2 walkers on the other side of the aisle started walking towards her. Ah, shit, Lucy muttered. Her dad tapped her on the shoulder and gestured her to follow him, his face stern and cold. She followed him to the next aisle. They both turned around and leaned over to see if they were being followed. It seemed as if the walkers had lost interest. Both of them stood up and sighed gently. Then suddenly her father was grabbed. He turned around to see the walker trying to bite him. He tussled with the walker and dropped his hunting rifle. Lucy tried to draw an arrow, but she started to panic and dropped her bow. She picked up the hunting rifle, aimed it, but she could not get a clear shot. She tried to aim for the walker, but the evil dance of life and death put her father in the crosshairs. Just pull the trigger, her father growled. Her fingers automatically pulled the trigger like her body listened to her father's command, more so than her brain did. The walker fell to the floor. Then she saw the blood stain that filled her father's shirt. He fell to the floor, clutching his stomach. The bullet had gone through the weakened mesh of flesh that the walker's body was built by and hit her father. "Oh my god, Dad!" Lucy screamed. She bolted down to her father and tried to put pressure on the wound. "Lucy, you need to leave. That shot has alerted the entire store. This place can be crowded by outsiders as well. You got 30 seconds, tops. Leave now. Leave me. I can be a distraction, just if it keeps you safe." Her father coughed. No. Lucy cried out. Her eyes swelled with tears as she held her father's face. "Lucy, run," her father ordered. Lucy wiped her tears. She grabbed her father's hunting rifle, her bow, and ran off. She jumped out of the store and ran up the car and back onto the bus. She then turned around to look at the shopping centre. From where she stood, she could see the huge crowd of walkers building up, and they filled the store ever so slowly. And she could see the aisle that she left her father in, now swarmed with walkers. She wiped her tears away and looked down at her father's hunting rifle. I won't ever shoot a gun again," she muttered, and she threw the rifle away into the pile of cornered walkers they walked past before. She then gripped her bow and looked at it. "I better start practicing," she grunted, and she headed back to the cabin. 1 year later. Lucy aimed her bow at a walker walking through the woods. She released her arrow and it hit the walker dead on in the head, making it drop dead. Then she drew another arrow and aimed it through the forest. She looked down into the forest and saw 2 men walking along the stream. She then aimed it at the 2 guys, both rather large gentlemen, both with friendly faces. Then she clocked it, a walker slowly creeping up behind them. They did not notice. A part of her laughed at the thought of letting this one walker win, but her father would frown at the thought. She released her arrow and the walker dropped dead. The 2 men turned around and saw the dead walker, then turned around and scanned their surroundings, then they clocked her higher up. "Hey! Thanks!" one of the guys called. The other one pulled the arrow out of the walker's head and held it up. You want this back?" the other yelled out. Lucy rolled her eyes and started climbing down the hill, and she walked up to them. "Thank you for saving us," one of them said. "It's okay," Lucy muttered. "Name's Jim. This is my brother Billy. We're from Humantown. Where are you and your people from?" the man known as Jim asked her. "There is no people. It's just me," Lucy told her. "Oh, well, that's kind of sad," Billy said with a frown. "I'm Lucy, and you guys can leave now," Lucy barked. She tried to take the arrow from Jim's hand. Whoa now. "You look tired, and I bet you haven't eaten in a few days. Come back with us, and maybe we can make you a meal, or something," Jim said to her, as he took a step back. "I'm not shagging you two, if that's what you're after," Lucy barked. "No way! We want you to be our hunter, our walker assassin. The way you killed that thing from, all the way up there, that was impressive," Billy told her. Lucy took a deep breath. Suddenly her stomach growled. She had lost count how many times her stomach rumbled due to the hunger. She missed her old mattress, which gave out a few months prior. "Okay, fine," Lucy grinned and swung her bow over her shoulders and followed the 2 men to Humantown. Present day. Lucy released the arrow and hit the final walker. Mikhail and Hunter then sheathed their weapons, then walked back up to Lucy. "Nice job, girl," Mikhail grinned. "Lucy, that was some awesome arrow work there. Damn," Hunter chuckled. "Practice, that's all," Lucy shrugged. Then she walked away, and the 2 boys followed her back to town. And there we have it, another installment to Walking Dead Brothers Bound. This is actually my only Walking Dead storyline, but it's one of my favourites, because I get to play around with any storyline I really want to. And when it comes to the storyline of Walking Dead Brothers Bound, it revolves around 2 people, Jake and Hunter. But when it comes to these 2 characters, they're the only characters that actually don't exist. All the other characters exist in real life, or they're based off people that exist in real life. Lucy's actually based off my sister. Her name isn't Lucy, but it's a name that she really likes, so I made it off of her. Billy and Jim are actually named after Billy and Jim from the Zero to Hero Discord and the Zero to Hero podcast, so you might want to check them out, because the podcast is a lot of fun. I've also been a guest there. Mikhail is also the son of Cosmic Dude 637, so you might want to go check him out. Cosmic Dude 637 has 4 podcasts, which he uploads his own storylines, you might want to go check them out, them being Power Rangers Universe 19, Sailor Moon E, Storytime with Cosmic Dude 637, and Nostalgia Time, the YouTube channel. I upload stories on 3 of his podcasts, of my own design, and they kind of share continuity with his other storylines, so you might go check there as well. Then of course, me and Cosmic Dude 637 are 2 of the 3 members of the 3 Ranger Bros, the 3rd member being Mark the Red Cornish Ranger. He has a podcast called Nerds for Comics where he uploads comic books as audio dramas. You don't have to read the comic book, his own storylines and his association with me, and I'm also going to be uploading my own stories in his Power Rangers Universe 20, so you want to go check that out as well. Subscribe to Tiger Tales The Lost Stories, another place where you'll find more stories written by me, but they're all in the first person perspective, and I try to twist the word fanfiction for new funky ideas. And then there's also Tiger Tales Game Over, another fanfiction YouTube channel, but all the stories revolve around video games of some kind, so make sure you subscribe to that one as well. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And that being said, I shall see you guys real soon.